first segment of the show. But actually, you know what? Before we begin with that, I'd like to say first and foremost, R.I.P. Kobe, uh, Mamba mentality, one of the greatest shooting guards to ever play the game. He tragically passed away a few years ago on this day. It's a tragic day for a lot of basketball fans. It was one of the worst days of my life. I consider myself a very big Kobe fan, and seeing that on the news was definitely not something that I enjoyed. So rest in peace, Kobe, Mamba mentality, and let's begin with the segment. Enough of that. So the All-Star starting lineups were recently released. The Western All-Stars are LeBron James with being captain, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Luka Doncic. So obviously, in my opinion, no mistakes there. LeBron was going to be the clear-cut captain, without a doubt, since I believe the captain is determined by who leads in the number of votes, and LeBron has always led in All-Star votes in practically every single year that he's played in for a very long time, and he's been a captain every single year that there was a captain system. Now, in the Eastern All-Stars, there's Giannis Antetokounmpo as the captain, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, and Damian Lillard. Now, the big talk behind... excuse me. My bad. So the big talk behind this, the starting lineups in this case is that Stephen Curry isn't in the starting lineup for the Western All-Stars. And this is the first time in a very long time where Steph has been a starter for the Golden State Warriors, and he was not selected to start in the All-Star team. A lot of people took to Twitter quickly to display the amount of shock they were all in with this news. He's one of the players he's one of those guys that's like almost guaranteed to have that spot. He's been a starter like every single year that he's been healthy since like 2014. And even with like all of the votes that he got with the All-Star voting, because he was second in guards. If you remember from one of the previous segments that I talked about, he was second in guards for All-Star voting. So it's not like he didn't have the votes to get in the starting lineup. So, but then again, he's not necessarily having the best season to get himself in the starting lineup either. His usual standards are definitely much higher than the standards that he's putting up right now, and the standards for his team are definitely higher than what he's doing right now, since it looked like they were going to win last night, but that ended up not happening because De'Aaron Fox stole the game. More on that later. The entire starting lineup for the West is almost exactly like how I expected, as I mentioned before. They come out not just from the voting, but also from the fact that all of these players are having a great season. And these players actually legitimately deserve to be in the starting lineup with the numbers that they're putting up. They're by far the best at their position. Luka and Shai are 1 and 2 at the guard position, in my opinion. So it makes total sense how both of them are starting this year. I'm sure Curry will come off the bench, but starting is like a really high honor in the All-Star game because it highlights how you are the best at your position according to the league and according to the fans, and it's widely recognized. Some of the NBA players, actually, like I think it's like kind of funny to mention, some of the NBA players are arguably bigger trolls than the fans. Steven Adams got a few votes for being in the All-Star game, even though he's not playing this season. So very good job by a lot of the players with that. LeBron being the captain was obvious. There's no really like stipulation for captains this year. If I remember correctly, it's going to be just regular West versus East, just like the good old days. Giannis also being a captain, like I mentioned before, no surprise. And along with the good old days, I believe comes with the good old format, where teams only compete within the allotted time, so we don't have to worry about them like, oh, you need to score like 24 more points than this final score, and then you win the game. And so right now they only have to or like for winning for their charitable donation. Right now, they only have to worry about beating the other team within the time of the quarter, and if they win in the quarter, they win a charitable donation. And I'm a bit surprised seeing now the Eastern lineup. I talked about the West, but I didn't talk about the Eastern starters. I'm a little bit surprised seeing Tyrese Halliburton. Actually, no, I lied about that. I'm not surprised to see Tyrese Halliburton. I'm more surprised seeing Dame in the starting lineup because he's had a lot of ups and downs in the season, and I thought that spot would have been reserved for Donovan Mitchell, who is leading the Cavs to the 4th seed right now. I understand that Dame is leading the Bucks to not necessarily being the leader, but he's the second option on the Bucks, who are the 2nd seed in the East right now. However, since his teammate is literally the captain of the All-Star team, I don't think it's necessarily fair to give him the edge over someone like Donovan Mitchell, because he's playing without Darius Garland at the moment, and the Cavs are still at a relatively high seed in the Eastern Conference, given the lineups that they have and the rest of the Eastern Conference and how top-heavy that Eastern Conference actually is. I'm going to go ahead and look at the standings real quick just to make sure that I'm right. And yeah, the Cavs are, with the Knicks winning last night, more on that later, the Cavs are now in the 5th seed, which isn't bad. Like, the difference between the 4th and the 5th seed is literally just home court advantage in the playoffs. But again, not that bad. I get that voting for like the All-Star voting is not necessarily just like for point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. It's just guards, and then the backcourt, I believe, which is like the small forward, the power forward, and the center. So it's like it's either between actually no, that was the front court. That's my bad. So Dame has like a great record with his teams, but I don't think that he deserves to be in that starting lineup over Donovan Mitchell. And honestly, in my opinion, I would put Scotty Barnes in that starting lineup, because you guys know that I'm a big fan of Scotty Barnes and his game. He's great for fantasy. He's good all around. He's just not bad on one side of the ball whatsoever. And it's like I'm a really huge fan of all of these of Scotty Barnes and his game. We have someone in the chat, Crucial PG again. So, yep, I'm talking about, he says, All-Star starters have been chosen. I have a boy named Chosen who's a Nets fan. Oh, wow, that's great. I wonder who that is. And there's not a single Nets player in the starting lineup for the All-Star team. So, and I don't think that there is going to be anyone coming off of the bench. So obviously, like Crucial PG says in the chat, Tyrese Halliburton deserves it. It's awesome to me, but Brunson should be over Dame. Like, actually, I was going to talk about Brunson not being selected in the starting lineup. Like, I knew Tyrese was going to be in there, like, because, you know, the All-Star game is happening in Indiana, so it's like he was definitely going to get the starting position regardless. He was the favorite and the number one leader in votes, and his media status could have rivaled LeBron at one point when he was like towards the beginning of the season and towards like the in-season tournament. It was like he was one of those given ones, and the demographic in Indiana is pretty basketball heavy, with famous colleges like participating in tournaments and a bunch of people being interested in the sport overall. Not to mention all the hype that he's getting from like all that media coverage that I just mentioned earlier. I could go on and on, but yeah, Tyrese definitely deserves that award. Jalen Brunson, one of the guards for the Knicks, he hasn't been getting that much attention in terms of all-star voting. I believe the last time I checked, he wasn't even in the top 10, which is insane to me because he is having a great season on the Knicks, and the Knicks were like, you know, they've been notoriously bad for several years, but like now recently they've been pretty good. which is like an achievement in of itself. And I definitely think that deserves a starting roster just because he's winning on the Knicks and he's the best player on the Knicks. That's definitely an achievement. So there was like, as I mentioned before, I thought there's still captains, but I don't think there's a draft going on in this All-Star game. Before, like, when there was a draft, I really didn't see like there to be a purpose in having other than having other conferences team up, so it's like one big free-for-all, and it's like, oh, we could finally see LeBron and Steph Curry on the same team because, like, LeBron was always on Eastern teams and Steph Curry was always on Western teams. What was funnier was that at one point when Giannis and LeBron were drafting, the starting lineups ended up being East versus West anyway. So even though it was technically like Team LeBron versus Team Giannis, it was East versus West. Once again, even though they are captains, I'm not sure if like they're going to draft a bench, but if they were to draft, then LeBron has been captain 6 times and has won 5 out of those 6 times. So if he can get another win as captain, the media will be right on that. Probably make a joke about him saying these are the only 6 times LeBron is going to win as a team leader because of all the Jordan rules and all the Jordan memes and stuff and how he just everyone loves making fun of him. Obviously, like he'd get hate from everyone, even though it's impressive winning that many All-Star games. Like, I mean, in that span, because like, even though like the big struggle for these All-Star games is like trying to find that competitive format. So like obviously like they tried, but it didn't work, and it really like confused people more than it did make the game more competitive, and it made it like lose its charm. So because of that, it's like there's not really anything that they can do to control the fact that the game isn't really competitive, but like we'll see if like they could keep this game competitive and whatnot. But obviously, like, it's not in our control if these players, like, they already know like that they're only playing for charity, and it doesn't affect a win-loss record. It's really a win for everyone if you think about it. And let me know which side you think has the stronger stars, honestly. Like, I personally think that in the starting lineup, the starters for the West have a slighter edge, specifically in the guard play. But depending on the bench, we'll see like how that develops. But I still think that the West, simply because of their starting lineup and like their strength in the guards, exceeds the Eastern All-Stars and their star power. So with that, we are out of time for the first segment. So I will be right back after a short break, and where we go into the second segment and we talk about some of the matchups from last night. So stay tuned.